It was exactly midnight when I boarded the bus. I wanted 8 hours of silence and a seat that didn't remember my name. Until the stranger who took the place beside me turned one night into a beginning I never saw coming. Chapter 1: Midnight. Ride. The coach smelled like diesel and burnt coffee, like every tired decision I'd ever made. Fluorescent lights buzzed, the air vents hissed, and the driver's voice broke over the speaker with a patience you can only learn after 1,000 routes. We're rolling in 3 minutes. I slid into the window seat and tugged my hoodie until the fabric made a cave around my face. Earbuds in, music low. If I could trick my brain into thinking the world was far away, maybe it would stop drumming its nails along the inside of my ribs. Head against the cold glass, I watched the parking lot smear into a wet geometry of cones and lines. He dropped into the seat beside me with a quick, apologetic shift of weight. His shoulder brushed mine. "Sorry," he said, the word a low, gravelly thing like a stone across water. I glanced up, my age. A faint scar near his eyebrow, the kind that comes from something small but sharp. Eyes too awake for midnight. Leather jacket that had known rain. On his wrist, just above the watch, a thin new cut he hadn't bothered to hide. "It's fine," I said, and meant it's fine as long as you don't ask me to be anything right now. The bus exhaled, lurched forward, and the parking lot dissolved into highway. Streetlights strobed through the window, a pulse that kept saying, "Still here, still here." I closed my eyes and listened to the hum of tires and blood, but I didn't know yet that this seat, this aisle, this hour would rearrange everything. I believed about being alone. The most shocking part hadn't even happened yet. Chapter 2: The weight of not talking. Silence between strangers can be a wall or a bridge. I used to think it was always the first. He tapped his knee in time with the engine, a soft drum I felt more than heard. Our eyes met once in the glass, just silhouettes thrown back at us by the dark. "Heading home?" he asked, "or running away?" A breath of a laugh left me. "Can't it be both?" He nodded like he recognized the road. "I'm Alex." "Daniel," I said. The driver dimmed the cabin. People folded into their private shapes. Neck pillows, hoodies, novels pretending to be shields. Outside, rain began its quiet work on the world. Alex spoke like you do when everyone else is sleeping and the words have nowhere to land but the space between 2 seats. "Night construction," he said. "Concrete that sets slower in cold. Apartments so quiet, the refrigerator felt like a roommate." He liked train stations, watching the life of other people's decisions slide across the platforms. I told him less habit, but more than usual. I hadn't been sleeping. I wasn't sure if going back meant going home. "Maybe both," he said again, and didn't ask for proof. But there was a sentence I hadn't said out loud in years, and it was already pressing against my teeth. Wait, this was nothing compared to what was coming. Chapter 3: First crack. Around 2 a.m. The bus hit a pothole the size of a memory. I woke with a shout caught halfway, a fish thrashing in the net of my throat. My chest locked, fingers digging into the seat ahead like it could hold me to the earth. Somewhere 3 rows back, someone whispered Jesus. Somewhere near. Alex's hand hovered, then landed steady on the armrest between us. "Hey," he said softly, like he was trying not to wake the dark. "No one's listening, just breathe." The old reflexes fired anyway. "Don't make a scene. Don't be a scene. You are a chair. Be a chair. But the breath came ragged and stubborn. And the world didn't end when it rattled the ribs it lived in. There used to be someone who made me feel safe. I heard myself say, then they left. I hadn't planned to open that door, Alex. Didn't lean in like a detective or lean back like a man who'd found the exit. He stayed exactly there. Maybe tonight, he said, you don't have to be alone with that. Streetlights slid over us in bands, making brief maps on his face. In the black window, two figures sat where one had been. Mine and the me. I kept walking fast enough to lose. But I still didn't know what he was really running from. The real shock was still ahead. When his phone lit up, the name on it would tilt the night. Chapter 4. The call. The screen flared blue-white against his jawline. DAD, the letters said, plain as a road sign. He silenced it fast, the muscle in his cheek ticking like a small clock. Everything okay? I asked, and hoped he would say yes so I could keep my world neat. He gave a smirk without pleasure. Depends. What you call okay. He didn't elaborate. I didn't pry. The bus rolled. The rain thickened. In the quiet that followed, I recognized the weight in his posture like you recognize your own jacket in someone else's closet. And the two weights were about to find each other like magnets in a drawer. And that was the moment everything started to lean a different way. Chapter 5. Confessions in motion. Rain braided itself across the windows. The bus became confessionals on wheels. Our words shortened, sharpened. I left tonight, he said. Didn't pack much. Couldn't breathe there anymore. I know that feeling, I said, and my voice sounded like someone older than me. My own pieces came out of their hiding places in the order they chose, nights that reached for my throat with both hands, mornings that felt like failure, the specific loneliness of building a fortress inside your chest, and then forgetting the way out. He didn't offer fixes. He didn't say, same. He nodded like a man who had found, at last, a map written in his dialect. But the sky had its own plans for drama. You won't believe what happened. Next, Chapter 6. The storm lightning broke open the night like a flashbulb. The bus swerved, brakes, screamed, bags thumped from overhead. People woke into fear, fully dressed. I grabbed for the seat back. Alex's hand grabbed mine like it had been waiting beside the emergency glass for exactly this. For 3 seconds, everything I wasn't brave, certain, fine burned away, and the only true sentence left was we're here. The bus steadied, a long, embarrassed sigh through the vents. We didn't drop hands right away. When we did, the space we left between our palms felt occupied. Was this a moment, or the bright thin start of something that didn't know its name yet? The real surprise waited at the next stop when the doors opened. The choice would belong to me. Chapter 7. The rest stop. Fluorescents, vending machines, donuts under sleepy glass. A child cried for reasons as old as humans. Alex bought 2 coffees, black as asphalt. Sugar? He asked. It doesn't help, I said. Right. He smiled, but it pretends to. We sat at a wobbly table. He said, me and my dad are a long tunnel. I asked, is there light? He said sometimes pretending is how you survive the dark part. We didn't rescue each other. We didn't drown, either. On the way back down the aisle, the bus looked narrower and more ours. Our shoulders found that almost touch again, a conversation. that didn't need verbs. When I shut my eyes, I knew the old nightmare would try a new trick. Chapter 8. Address unknown. Half sleep is a thin ice. Something heavy moved across it. The corridor again. The locked door. That hush that isn't quiet but warning. A voice like mine but not mine told me to come closer. I woke carefully, like I was unfolding a letter I might tear. Alex's mouth had that line in it that meant he was awake too. "Still here," he whispered, not asking permission to be. "Sometimes the night sends me back to an old address," I said. "Then we write a forwarding notice," he said, "and stop picking up its mail." In the window, I could see us doubled. And doubled self, shadow, stranger, possibility. But the next name I needed wasn't on a phone, it was on the thing that lived inside my ribs. Now this was still the prologue. Watch what happens when we name it. Chapter 9. Naming. Give it a name, I said. The thing you're carrying. He huffed a laugh. "I told you my name. The other one." He looked down. "Fear of not making it to tomorrow," he said after a moment. "Yours. If I speak it, I'll shatter. And if you speak, don't," he asked. I'd never considered that path. "Then the bus changes direction," I said, and realized how much I wanted that to be true. The next stop would be a rehearsal space, small stage, 2 chairs, no audience. Chapter 10. Trial run. We called it a sound check, not a confession. At the quiet stop, with rain drumming a metronome on the roof, I said the things I usually handcuffed behind my teeth. Not the whole book. A paragraph too. The parts you can say without bleeding and the one that makes the room lean. Alex didn't crowd me, didn't fix me, didn't flinch at the word childhood. When I ran out of air, he didn't say, "It's over." He said, "It's spoken." Back in our seats, the driver announced weather delays. For once, waiting felt like mercy, but the past knows all the numbers on your phone. Chapter 11. The message. Mom. She called me, says she wants to apologize, face to face. My thumb rested against the glass. Alex read the text, then my face. "What do you want?" "Nothing," I said, and felt the strange lightness of meaning it. "Nothing is an answer," he said, "and a boundary." I typed, "Tomorrow, 5 p.m. Hit send. I didn't feel powerful. I felt present. You think the storm was the drama. The calmest moment had the sharpest edge. When the bus stopped again, what walked up the aisle wasn't for us, but it looked at us anyway. Chapter 12. Checkpoint. 2 officers boarded at a random stop. IDs. Flashlights that made everyone new. One paused by us, eyes darting to the thin cut on Alex's wrist. "Everything all right here?" "Yes," Alex said, steady, doctor voice without the coat. The light hit my face next. "You okay?" "Yes," I said, and felt Alex's shoulder. Small shift closer. A move no one else would notice. They moved on. The bus rolled. Something unspoken uncoiled a little. The chapter that followed started with the same 2 names, a different kind of question. Chapter 13. Dawn. Barefaced. The dark lifted, without admitting it had been there. People snored. The windows went from mirrors to cinematic frames. I studied the angle of Alex's profile and recognized the exhaustion under his eyes like a family resemblance. "Sometimes it isn't the sleeplessness that kills you," I said. "It's not being able to tell anyone you didn't sleep. Sometimes sleep shows up the second someone knows your story," he said. Don't miss this. The story was learning its own name. Chapter 14. Neon Town. We dipped into a small town with neon that didn't know it was outdated. Alex stood for water. In the narrow aisle. Our fingers brushed passing the bottle, the electric kind of accident that feels suspiciously like intention. I remembered something my therapist had said once back when I still went. Regulation is contagious. Maybe safety was, too. The next ring of his phone would be less a call and more a line in the sand. Chapter 15. Second call. Dad pulsed on his screen. He answered. I can't talk long. I'm on the bus. The silence on the other end was a weather system. No, he said, his voice a beam. I'm not coming back tonight. Pause, or tomorrow. Longer pause. I heard you, but I'm still not. When he hung up, he exhaled like he'd been underwater. Old wounds keep reading the same sentence, he said. I'm trying to edit it. Edits change endings, I said. Or beginnings, he said. You think that was the pivot. The quiet little stop after was louder than thunder. Chapter 16. Short stop, long echo. A passenger asked to switch seats. The bus was full. She shrugged and returned to her place. Nothing happened, and I realized how starved I was for the relief of nothing happening. I like this seat, I said, surprising myself. Same, Alex replied. Not just the seat, the beside you part. The sentence settled around us like a ring the world couldn't step into. Reality is good at slipping back in, though through the gap under the door. Chapter 17. News Mom. She asked again. Says she wants to apologize in person. I'll respect whatever you choose. What do you want? Alex asked, and it was becoming our language. Ask the want, not the should. For once I said nothing. Then nothing is brave, he said simply. The largest wave still hadn't crested. Chapter 18. The brake deer in the road. Screech, sway. A soft chorus of, oh God. Alex's arm came across me. Seatbelt I didn't know I needed. The bus found the lane again and kept going like it hadn't just considered every possible version of us. I'm here, he murmured 2 words. Roof, blanket, key. I watched them fit over the last hour like they'd been measured for it. The next stop would add a door to the 2-person room we'd been building without blueprints. Chapter 19. Open. A diner blinked open in stubborn red. Coffee that tasted like car rides. Pancakes we split without asking. Our hands found each other in the middle of the table and didn't perform surprise. We talked about nothing and about the exact shape of nothing. About songs that were better at night. About how leaving sometimes feels like jumping and sometimes like finally standing up. Rehook number 12. This was still not the headline. The final question waited at the terminal and wore normal clothes. Chapter 20. Terminal announcements. Stacked on each other like plates in a sink. We stepped off into the crowd. Alex's backpack strap creaked as he shifted it. Do we split here? He asked. The most generous version of the question I'd ever been given. Breakfast, I said, choosing with over without again. Bad. Coffee, 2 forks, 1 plate. Breakfast, he agreed, and we walked in step because sometimes bodies know before brains at the table. A third thing sat with us, possibility still warm. Chapter 21. Breakfast chrome. Vinyl. A waitress with excellent eyebrows. We ordered the same thing and pretended it meant something because it did. Sometimes the sentences I wrote at night fall apart in daylight, he said, flipping the mug handle toward me like a courtesy. Sometimes daylight makes them read cleaner, I said. We ate, we breathed. We let the room be a room and not a test we had to pass. The bill came with a pen that didn't work. We laughed harder than we should have and shared the working one like a treaty. But the real test wasn't the crowd. It was a quiet room with one window and two choices. Chapter 22. The room his short-term rental smelled like clean sheets and cheap soap. One window, one small desk, one bed. I stood in the doorway like a person in a museum. Stay, he said. Just today, I want to know how you sleep here. How I sleep, I asked, and heard how new it sounded. Someone wondering not whether, but how. Yeah, he said. I want to learn the map. I took off my shoes like a ritual. Lay back. The ceiling had a water stain shaped like a small country. He dimmed the lights. If anything happens tonight, he said from the floor by the door, I'm here. I know, I said, and meant my nervous system heard you, that night. The script changed. Chapter 23. The dream, the corridor again. The door, the voice that used to borrow mine. But this time I turned the knob from the inside and said, clearly, like I was reading lines I'd memorized, you don't come in here anymore. The lock clicked. Lights on, one by one, down the hall like runway beacons. I walked toward morning. I woke with my heart steady, like a metronome finally set to the right tempo. Alex's back rested against the door, chin tucked to his chest, sleeping exactly like a person who had meant what he said. Hey, he whispered when my breaths changed. You slept. I did. Good. One envelope still waited with its small, official mouth. Chapter 24. The letter, my name spelled correctly, inside. Mediation request. A meeting. A neutral room. Someone's version of closure. I held the paper up to the light, like the right angle might change the words. What do you want? Alex asked, making space for any answer that didn't hurt me. Not now, I said. What would your therapist say? That control is mine, and what do you say? I said, and felt the simple miracle of a door closing without slamming. I typed a sentence with hands that didn't shake. No meeting, I'm done. Sent. We made coffee with the care people, usually save for toasts. Sugar? He asked. No, I said, smiling. I can taste it now. We stood at the window and watched morning do its slow work on the city. If anyone asks how a stranger became something else, I'll tell them the truth, dressed plain. I didn't sit in the wrong seat. I sat in the right story. Chapter 25. After new morning after is strange. It looks like the same bus routes, and the same sink, and the same city. But the volume is different. I texted my mom and told her I wasn't coming by that afternoon. I'm okay, I wrote. I just need today to be today. She wrote back, proud of you. I'm here when you want. It didn't fix anything. It didn't have to. We walked out to a street market where everything was too bright for our eyes and bought oranges that tasted like the sun. A kid chased a pigeon in circles. An old man tuned a guitar and didn't play it. The world continued. So did we. You think the story ends at survival. Watch what happens when it learns to live. Chapter 26. Call without drama. She called, not the woman from the letter. My mom. How are you? She asked like an invitation, not a trap. I slept, I said. That's a beautiful sentence, she said. And we both laughed because it was. She didn't ask about Alex. I didn't volunteer. I would, later. Today was 4 truths that could stand on their own legs. I hung up and felt not lighter, exactly. More correctly weighted. The next choice wasn't big or cinematic. It was a set of keys. Chapter 27, keys I had to cut at the hardware store that smelled like metal and lemon cleaner. The clerk put them on a cheap ring with a logo I'd forget. On the back steps, where the paint peeled like a harmless sunburn, I placed the keys in Alex's palm. Not for emergencies, I said. For everything. He didn't make a speech. He closed my fingers over the ring until the teeth pressed crescents into my skin. Okay, he said, which in our language meant yes. And also I understand. What you are giving me we celebrated, with takeout, eaten from cartons and a pillow we didn't need anymore. The room was the same size. We were not. One last wave came anyway because life likes its symmetry. Chapter 28. Bridge return at dusk. We walked to the pedestrian bridge I didn't remember crossing the first time. Trains hummed below, a long electric animal. I put both hands on the railing and took the picture I hadn't been able to take when my body was an alarm I couldn't shut off. The tracks running away into a horizon. I didn't have to chase. I used to think sleep was the enemy, I said. But it was just the alarm. The fire was somewhere else. And now? Alex asked. Now, I said, I think the alarm did what alarms do. It got me out. We stood there 2 minutes longer than necessary, and then we went home, because that's what you do when you aren't running. Epilogue. Good morning. On purpose I woke before my alarm. Streetlight stripes lay soft across the wall. The room smelled like coffee someone had already started. On the counter, pancakes cooled on a plate we'd begun to call ours. Beside the syrup, a note leaned like it had wandered over by accident. Good morning on purpose. I didn't cry. I didn't have to. I ate. I breathed. I wrote a text to myself that said simply, stay. If you're listening to this and wondering how a midnight bus turned into a life, it didn't. We did. One choice. Then another. One no, then a yes. One seat, then a room, then a set of keys. Not the end, just the beginning.